Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Guest today, Rajni Kurichh. Rajni, please tell us where you are in the world and what you do for a living.
Hi, Matt. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Happy to have you.
I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and so I'm here to talk to you about my fairly recent new business. So my business is called Kesar Cardi. It's an Indian vegan sweets business. It's the first of its kind in the world. And I mean, do you want me to just talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, it's so unique and beautiful. I was obviously looking at the website right before we hopped on here, and my first thought was like, I need to buy some of these for my girlfriend. Like, she would just absolutely fall in love with these, the packaging, the designs of the actual sweets themselves. I mean, it's just so beautiful. So I mean, what kind of got you interested in getting into this space? And tell us a little about the story leading up to developing these products and sweets for the brand.
Okay, well, how I got into this space is kind of interesting. So I come from an Indian family, although I was born and raised in North America, and this type of sweets are very common in all kinds of occasions. So if there's a wedding, if there's a funeral, if there's any kind of function, these kind of sweets are always there, and they serve whatever purpose, either it's a celebratory or prayer or whatever, stuff like that. I, however, have never liked them. Okay. They are heavily, not because they're dairy based, but I just never really liked them. They're traditionally made with milk, butter, and some flavorings. Typically, their flavors are the saffron and cardamom are very common, which is the name of my company. Kesar is the Hindi word for saffron, and then Cardi play on cardamom. So those, and incidentally, those are the two right now most expensive spices in the world. So I thought, and so I was on sort of a journey, a health journey a couple of years ago, and I was trying to cut out carbs and sugar and all that kind of stuff. And I had these fat bombs, and they somehow reminded me of the taste of these things from childhood. And then sort of a light went off in my head, and I was like, oh, there is no vegan version of this in the world. It doesn't exist, right? So that's how I got started. And I really had only ever made this sort of thing like once in my life before, like when I was in my 20s. So I went to culinary school for French pastry, actually, at some point in my life.
Oh, wow.
So I have that pastry background. My parents had the very first, or one of the very first Indian restaurants in North America in the late 60s, early 70s. So I kind of grew up industry, except for that, because my parents had been in it, my dad was always like, no, you don't want to do food business.
Of course, yeah.
Right? But I always had this desire to do a food business, and I had like all these ideas through the years. Oh, I want to do that. And my dad would be like, no. And every one of those ideas that I've had, somebody else has done, and they're doing great, and they're very successful. So I was like, you know what, this is the one. I've been vegan for 8 or 9 years now. I'm a very passionate vegan, and I want to sort of help educate people about veganism, and also kind of take away some of that stigma of like, vegan food doesn't have to be like grass and carrots and rabbit food, right? There's lots of delicious stuff, and you can have everything and be kind to the planet and be kind to animals at the same time. So that's how kind of the idea was born. And then I started making them, and the first few batches were just garbage. And then, because I was trying to just do like replace the milk with a vegan version, and it wasn't a one-to-one. So there was a lot of experimentation and working in there. And then eventually I got a product that I was like, oh my God, this is good. And then I wanted to introduce this to like a North American audience, because like any person of Indian origin will know mithai. That's what is the general word. And mithai really just means dessert or sweet. But it's not in the sort of zeitgeist of a broader culture in North America. Whereas like if I asked you if you know chicken curry, I'm sure you would say yes, right?
Of course,
Or
yeah.
or chana masala or something like that. So there's some Indian dishes that are quite common now in North America. And this is a category of food that has just not come here. There's not really a big, you might know a couple of the desserts that are common in Indian restaurants, but these aren't served in Indian restaurants. And they're delicious. And it's like, and then so I wanted to kind of make them fusion flavors and good fat forward so that they kind of mimic a fat bomb, but not entirely, but they're lower sugar, but you get this like wonderful, like, that satiation feeling, and you get the flavors. Like I get comments like, I don't get the sugar rush, but it feels like, some people are like, I just feel pampered when I eat these. I can taste all the like flavors and the spices and stuff like that. So that's really how I got started. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. The other thing is I always wanted to do, kind of have my own business. I was in IT in my previous professional life. And so I was just like, I got to do my own thing now.
No, it's amazing. I love that story, and like probably not surprised to hear most of the people that come on the podcast that do CPG of any kind. I mean, any kind of packaged foods. It's always kind of stories like this, where it just really comes from a passion project, and then you just take it on your own 2 feet in, and I've met with brands anywhere from $1 million a year in revenue up to even 50 million, and all the stories are usually the same. So that's amazing. I love that story. And so when you think about, this, it seems like it's a more traditional thing to have in like a, maybe like Indian cultural, like celebratory way, like an Indian wedding. I've actually seen these. I've been to many Indian weddings, and I've actually seen these, not all of them, but a couple of them that I've been to. So I'm actually a little familiar with what they were. I didn't know what the name was. I just saw them and they were so beautiful. I was like, of course, I'm going to eat as many of these as I can. So when you think about, the business going forward, I know you launched fairly recently. Are you looking to make this kind of a more just like overarching general, on the shelves, it's just a snack, or are you looking to kind of market it more towards celebratory type of like situations like that?
So I'm positioning the company as a luxury brand. So I'm not
Interesting.
yeah. So right now I'm not looking at going into like a grocery store because that's not, I wanted to sort of keep it upscale because they're often given as gifts. And
Right.
so on my website, they're very beautiful. They're in beautiful packaging. It's a lovely gift to receive. It's healthy. It's good for the environment. It gives you a sweet fix. It has a lot of things. And I thought, even in an economy where people are struggling and they don't have a lot of money to pamper themselves, this is an affordable luxury that sort of everybody can have or give as a gift. So that's sort of where I have positioned it. So I'm not looking at the grocery stores right now. What I am considering is partnering with compatible companies or companies that would be, that have a symbiotic relationship, that a partnership, like a tea company, a high-end tea brand or something like that, where you can, kind of package things together. The other thing that I am working on at the moment is I've had some kind of issues with, because it's a perishable, completely organic, non-preservative product. I'm having challenges with the cold shipping a little bit, so that things aren't necessarily like you have to put it in the fridge and wait for a day before you can eat it again so that it firms up and things. So I want to kind of work on that some, but I'd like to also maybe in terms of getting to a grocery store, maybe offer a different level where I could offer either the pre-made or have like, cookie dough. Like, I don't know if there's any available, but you can get like, there were some companies that put out like cookie dough and like ice cream pint kind of tubs in the freezers that you could get. So I'm thinking of doing something like that and have a kit where you can buy the, the pre-made stuff, but then you go and put it in your own mold and set it at home.
Okay. Interesting.
And that would be a sort of a lower version where you could get that maybe in a grocery store. So then I could still keep the high-end gift box as the next level, a different tier. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what you sold so far, I mean, has it mostly been, are you doing any other like channels, like you on any marketplaces, or is it pretty much direct through the website?
It's direct. I've done a little bit of marketing, through social media, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. I was selected to be showcased in the Vegan Women's Summit's gift guide in December. So that was pretty amazing. And so that I got a lot of exposure and traffic through that. And I haven't really done a lot recently. I've just put out my spring summer collection last week. And I've done mostly it's just word of mouth a little bit of social media. And then I've had a couple of pop-ups at Nordstrom. They approved me like out of the gate. So, and that was pretty cool. And I think a lot for me is educating people. So when you talk about like, is this going to be focused towards like, wedding, like that is a segment that I'm looking at, is because that is where, maybe that people are willing to spend a little bit more money and they want something a little bit special and unique. So I'm focusing a little bit on that for the Indian market. But in terms of my target audience, I'm finding that it's not really that much Indians. It's right now it's kind of 50-50 and it's everybody. There's not one particular cultural group, which is, that's focused on this. In fact, I'm surprised that it's probably more not Indian than Indian. So that's creating a little bit of challenge to know who I should be targeting,
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I would definitely think, I mean, traditional as these like style of like these sweets are, that it would be maybe like catering more to like Indians if you're selling, even if you're selling just in North America. But I mean, I'm not surprised though, because I mean, I came across this and like if there was like a birthday or something coming up, I mean, I would buy it tomorrow for somebody. It's so beautiful. Like this is like it's like perfect gift, and like you say, it's an affordable luxury. It's exactly what it is. I think it's a perfect way to position it. And do you find that you're more? I know that the launch is very recent, so maybe this isn't 100% clear yet. But do you find it's kind of becomes more? You get more traffic around like holiday time, or what has your kind of experience been with that? Do you find it like becoming more of a seasonal thing, or?
So far, not really. I haven't been a full year yet. What I found was there was a lot of traffic, like obviously when I launched, because I launched, it was new, everybody was interested.
Right.
And I didn't have as much. I expected the Christmas season, the holiday season to be my busiest. And I think I was more busy like at Thanksgiving, which was interesting. And I don't know if that's coincidental or, at Christmas the holiday season wasn't as busy as I expected. And now I'm starting to see the incline again with the spring. I think that it is a little too early to say if it's going to, coincide with holidays. I have seen that so far it hasn't coincided with Indian holidays either. And I think it might be more of an occasion thing. So, I mean, a lot of people get these as gifts. And then I think wedding season. So I think summer might actually be bigger, but then also there's some educating, right? Because people don't know what this is. Like when I had my pop-ups and I've had, test marketing before I ever launched with, to see what people thought of it. So it's a new flavor, a new flavor texture product for people who have never had anything like this before. And I can literally watch a person take a bite and then I see their brain turning to think, what do I think of this? And then there'll be like a delayed, oh, wow, that's good. So there's some education that needs to be, people think it's beautiful. I always get that, but do you want it? Well, what is it? So that's another part of it, that because it's a new product to the North American market, that will make some difference. And then that might help to determine whether it's going to be more seasonal, or I think it's going to be more occasion based than seasonal. And I guess, I mean, that will play into it eventually because the holidays are a season, an occasion. But I think that's going to take a little bit of time to become that way. And also, I think as people become more health conscious and move towards, more plant-based foods, I think that'll help to increase the awareness that, hey, there's this option here. You don't have to, like I had somebody said that they went to India and they didn't have a single sweet because they're vegan. And they were like thrilled to find out that I exist, but it's not that out there yet. So there's a lot to do with the marketing side of it.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to understand with a brand as new as yours, because something I hear time and time again from folks who have been with their brand for almost 10 years always ask, like, what kind of advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time to day one? And almost always in the CPG space, I know you're I actually quite like the luxury like market placement that you're doing, but any like kind of packaged foods at all, everybody their big piece of advice is always, to any new entrepreneurs, like, just know it's going to take time. Like, it's the beginning of the roadmap can be long. Don't rush it. you need to get that feedback and like really understand like the whys people are buying, when they're buying, like what the reasons are. So I think you have a really healthy perspective on that, that you're, just saying, we're starting to figure it out, but this is going to take some time to really realize like when people are buying and why they are, so we can position it to, cater to those needs. So I think it's a really important insight for any, new entrepreneurs like yourself to understand that, sometimes it is just time. And you can do all the right things, but sometimes you just have to take the time to get the feedback and do the hard things, and you just get it into as many hands and eyes and mouths as possible. So
absolutely, yeah, I think exposure is really key, and I'm not at that place where I'm sort of freaking out and like, oh my goodness, it's not, I expected to have $1 million in revenue in the first 6 months and it didn't happen. I'm very much in that mindset of, this is a new business, it's a new product category, and it is going to take time. But what I do know for sure is that this is going to be the premier product in this category in the future, because people are moving towards veganism, people are moving towards plant-based products, and I am positioned as that, the first in the world. And eventually I'd like to have brick and mortars where, people come in and it's like, a high-end sort of coffee shop or tea shop, and you have this little dessert. And so, but it takes time. It all takes time.
Yeah.
And then, funding.
Yeah. I know that's been a big challenge. Again, another kind of recurring conversation is many times around funding. But I could totally see this. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, a gift, like my girlfriend would love this. But also I could see it being in like what comes to my mind is the old Tivana stores before they went under, something like that, where it's like it kind of goes right with that. It's like luxury. I can definitely see that. So I think that's a vertical I could definitely see you existing in. It's for sure on that. And I mean, on the funding side of things, what kind of challenges are you facing? I mean, I've heard so many different, kind of angles and stories of, it just seems like it's kind of been in decline, like the availability of, able to get, outside seed funding. So what's your kind of experience been on that side of things?
Well, I'm just really starting to put together my, my package and my pitch for funding. So I haven't
Gotcha.
had a lot of actual experience in getting the rejections. But what I'm finding already is that, first of all, CPG funding is always harder than other funding to begin with.
Yeah.
And then right now there seems to be a lot of decline, and people are not really, that interested in getting into this kind of space. So you have to have, a really kind of unique angle that I think I do. And I'm not personally concerned about getting the funding, but the challenge is finding the right people, who are going to be interested and understand your vision, because it's really about the vision right now, because it's not about the numbers. They're not there at this point.
Yeah, no, it's so important, because I think too many people kind of get into this feeling of, they get into business or an entrepreneur for the first time, and then it just becomes a seed round funding battle, and that's like the whole business, is just getting more funding and more funding. And yeah, I mean, you have to be diligent with those partnerships, because you partner with somebody and they give you money as an investment. I mean, they're a partner in your business, they're a partner in your business. You want to be able to have an open line of communication, to have understanding, and so that maybe if it doesn't look like maybe 10 other brands that they're invested in, they can understand why when they understand your vision. So I think this is very important for people to understand too. So I think I think you have a very even keeled and healthy perspective in this stage of your growth with your business. I think it's I think it's something to be replicated by any others that might be listening, that might find themselves in similar stages. So I really appreciate the insights.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of keep your feet firmly planted on the ground, and yet, have the vision and the dream of where you want to go. So you're not limited in thinking this can't happen, it won't happen, I don't know how this is going to happen, but just understanding that you got to put in the work, and it takes time to get there. So there's no, magic bullet that you're going to go from zero to wherever you're looking to go in a minute. No brands, all companies that are out there that, had the, overnight success have 20 years of work behind it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no overnight anything.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. That's the biggest thing, I think.
No, it absolutely does. And this is something I bring up all the time is this person on TikTok that I see, I can't get away from it somehow. It's like everything you see about it is like, I sell $1 million a month of envelopes to grandmas on Facebook. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
sure. Like, that's great. Like, this is not helping anybody. Like, this is not a
yeah.
realistic way to think about like how to make a business or like, make money. And I'm sure there was probably years and years of things that he either learned or, had to work on before it got to that point. So, but unfortunately, that's kind of all we see on social media and even in the news. Somebody goes on the news and it's just like this, always this big overnight success is this wonderful idea. And it's like, yeah, that's good. But and that's why I love doing the podcast and like doing what we do is, the real insights from real entrepreneurs that are starting to have success, but still facing a lot of growth is, I think, very illuminating for people. That's the feedback that we get. And yeah, I appreciate your very honest and, very real insights for that reason. So,
Awesome. And yeah, and I think what happens with those kind of, ads that you were just mentioning is that it creates a sense of fear, urgency, and defeat in an entrepreneur who's just starting and they're like, oh my God, this person did this. They're already there. How come it's not happening for me? And I repeatedly see that in my, entrepreneur groups where, there's support groups of people giving each other feedback.
mhm.
And people are like, what's working for you? Why isn't social media working? Is it working? It's not working for me. And I think it's because there are these kinds of things out there that people think, they're doing it. How come I'm not? And a lot of time they're not exactly telling you the truth in those, 5-second snips.
Hardly ever. Yeah.
Right. So like you have to be able to understand and look at that with a grain of salt and go, you know what, that's not real. And, things like if you look at a post like that and they've got like 2 million likes, but 12 comments, chances are it's not legit, So you really have to kind of, I hate social media. Personally, it's not my thing. So, I mean, I'm on it because I have to be for the business, but I try to limit, looking at that stuff because all that does is it gets you off your path. And the other thing that, if I were to tell myself or I could tell anybody else is there's no competition. You cannot compare yourself to anybody else. You have to just look at your goals and your path and don't worry about what anybody else is doing because you don't know what's gone into their path and what, where they started and how they got to where they are. It's never as simple as people say, ever.
Yeah. And, like 95% of the time when you see posts like that, you go to like, click the links like, learn how I did it. Oh, so there's $150 a month. Here's my course on how I do it. It's like that's always what it is. I'm like, I see. Okay. I see where the real money's coming from now.
Exactly. They're putting the courses and that's how they get the money.
Yeah. No, that's so funny. But yeah, I just want to give you an opportunity too, before we jump off, just to plug your socials, let people know, they listen to the podcast, they love you, they want to stay in touch, they want to order. Let people know how to stay in touch with you guys.
Okay, so we have a website. It's at kesarcardi.com, KESARCARDI.com. And we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. I mean, we're on Pinterest and X, but I mean, really Insta and Facebook are probably the two big ones, and the links for those are on the website. Website is probably the best place to go. You can access the shop from there and see everything that we've got and give us a try. It's good stuff.
Awesome. Rajni, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time and wish you nothing but luck and continued success.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch for sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Rajni. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.